This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia at lunch. Tonight, I'm all yours. That's right, we're alone together. Just me and you. Consider this a special Christmas edition. Let's put the X back in Christmas, shall we? And as a special treat to you, yeah, you do get me all to yourself. The gift that keeps on giving. I mean, I know you're sick of all those mind-numbing Christmas carols. Sick of all the Christmas bullshit of being reminded who your family is, or actually forgetting who your family was. And let's face fact, we're all a tribe here, so welcome to the family dinner. That would be the family lunch. And we know who the real coven is, and trust the witch, bitch, you are in good company. I want to thank all the spectacular guests that Season 1 has brought to you, your bedrooms, your headphones, your where the fuck ever. And coming soon, we have an exceptional Season 2 of Future Guest. I can't wait, which will also be available on video coming soon. But enough about them and back to me. I made a special Christmas mix of some of my more obscure tracks for your listening, if you want to call it pleasure. I guess that's what it'll be. So I want to start first off with a little recitation of a William Burroughs piece of literature called Virus.
What does virus do whenever it can dissolve a hole and find traction? It starts eating. And what does it do with what it eats? It makes exact copies of itself that start eating to make more copies, that start eating to make more copies, that start eating and so forth to the virus power, the fear, hate. Virus slowly replaces the host with virus copies. Program empty body, a vast tapeworm of bring down word and image moving through their mind screen, always at the same speed on a slow hydraulic spine axis, like the cylinder gimmick in the adding machine. How do you make someone feel stupid? You present him all the times he talked and acted and felt stupid again and again, any number of times, fed into the combo of the soft calculating machine geared to find more and more punch cards and feed in more and more images of stupidity, disgust, grief, apathy, death. The recordings leave electromagnetic patterns. That is, any situation that causes rage will magnetize rage patterns and draw around the rage word an image recording or some disgusting sex practice. Once the connection is made in childhood, whenever the patterns are magnetized by sex desire, the same word and image will be presented and so forth. The counter move is very simple. This is machine strategy, and the machine can be redirected. Record for 10 minutes on a tape recorder. Now, run the tape back without playing and cutting. In other words, at random, where you have cut in and re-recorded words are wiped off the tape and new words in their place. You have turned time back 10 minutes and wiped electromagnetic word patterns off the tape and substituted other patterns. You can do the same with mind tape after working with the tape recorder. This takes some experimentation. The old mind tapes can be wiped clean. Magnetic word dust falling from old patterns. Word falling, photo falling.
That was a piece called Virus by William Burroughs. My experience with Burroughs goes back to the early 80s when John Giorno and his poetry system did an album called Better an Old Demon Than a New God. Burroughs was never a fan of women, and I was really never a fan of Burroughs, I must admit. However, during the Burroughs centennial a few years ago, that was the 100-year anniversary of his birth, I decided, why should I not exploit a dead white man? One thing about Burroughs that I loved was I loved his storytelling live, his performances, his aesthetic. I loved his lifestyle, and that the fact that he was one of the first queer drug addict pedophiles and made no bones about it, and actually illustrated a life that many of us would have wished we could have afforded to live as a trust fund baby. I decided to profit off of his ghost by doing, instead of a cut up, a cut in of Burroughs in my work at the University of Indiana, Bloomington. The problem was I had to read 7 books of Burroughs in 1 week, and if he wasn't dead already, I probably would have killed him, because most of them sucked. His best line, I'm sorry to say, was the algebra of need. Now, as a philosopher, as a social scientist, as a performer, as a stylist, and as a lifestylist, I think he was absolutely amazing. He stole a lot of his ideas from Herbert Huncke. Herbert Huncke was the original Beat. And if you haven't read Guilty of Everything, which Diane DePrima, one of the only female beat artists of the 50s, 60s, put out, I please encourage you to do so. I wrote an article on Herbert Huncke for the Rolling Stone Book of Beat. I don't know what year, you'll have to look that up. But the end of Herbert Huncke's life was spent in the Chelsea Hotel, where the only good thing the Grateful Dead ever did was support him until he died. And even at the age of 80, he was still a drug addict and a sexual deviant. This is a little piece I did based on the writings of Herbert Huncke set to the music of Tim Dahl's Grid. This is called The World According to Herbert Huncke. You're listening to Lydian Spin. In all probability, they would have never known me unless I had a criminal record. I think they came in looking for excitement, precariously. Why else would they be interested in me or Hell's Kitchen or 42nd Street unless they thought the underworld was there waiting for them? Yeah, they thought they had gotten real close to it, close to the real thing, let's just put it that way. That's how I affected them. And they were all short-shrift hustlers, petty thieves, all con artists and convicted felons, the parasitic leeches, those lifelong junkies, one or two of them, unsung hero of the literary underground, right? Maybe one or two of them that had, beautifully rendered stories about heartbreaking detours, dealing and detailing life to the extreme, life they spent endlessly searching for, freedom whose very essence is fleeting, freedom whose song at first stings of release, of liberation, of a fraudulent utopia which quickly fades as the stranglehold of addiction takes place. Yeah, they came to me looking for something they knew they couldn't get back home in Kansas or Omaha or wherever the hell they were from, some bow-hit, corn-fed town in the middle of nothing, yeah. They wanted it up close and personal, and that's why they came to me. Money burns a hole in your pocket, especially when you don't have any, and you're milking a habit, or luck runs out, and there's no one left to mooch off. I saw them all come and go more than once a dozen times, hustling down at the lakefront. Chump change, it didn't go far. They had to up the ante every time. They had to
up the ante. Sometimes they get busted just so that they can clean up and clean out down on Moral, Sing Sing, Rikers, wherever. Not that prison could completely cure anybody's criminal tendencies, actually. It just makes it worse and throws some junk on top of that, and all it's gonna teach you to do is to refine your hustle. All it's gonna teach you to do is become bigger, badder, harder, or maybe to learn how to become a master storyteller. You gotta start spinning these glorious tales of decadent America, even if it means you're just drifting from couch to couch. Maybe you're trading a poem or some prose just for a shot, a fix, a sandwich, someplace to sleep that night. Sometimes you just manage to survive on your notoriety.
That was my recitation of a Herbert Hunky life story, the original beat. What I'd like to take you out of your own reality with now is a little piece called Cursed Folly. It's from my album called Marquesa, based on the philosophy of the Marquis de Sade, with psychoambient music by me and a few other of my more notorious friends. This track has music provided by Weasel Walter, which I then reconfigured in some manner of speaking. It's called Cursed Folly. Enjoy. The evidence of folly, fetish, fantasy, that picture-perfect postcard depiction of an image that somewhere, somehow, sometime long ago perverted your imagination, your determined imagination. Isn't that what they call witchcraft? Oh, you do believe in magic, don't you? Isn't that why you came to me? Isn't that why you're here now? Aren't you looking for a magical deliverance, a supernatural existence? I know that what you need to see is that, which it is that you want most to see, and sometimes the evidence is right before your very eyes, and that which is most obvious appears also most mysterious. And the evidence of folly, fetish, fantasy, that picture, postcard, perfect depiction of an image that somewhere, somehow, at some time long ago, perverted your imagination, your determined imagination. Isn't that why they call you a witch? You're listening to the Lydian Spin. Happy to be with you today, tonight, wherever you are escaping from that horror of the family Christmas. Or perhaps you're more like I am and you're just avoiding it altogether, and every day is a special gift you give to yourself because you're still alive. Now, some of my favorite people are actually no longer alive. And I'd like to dedicate this, because it does involve one of my favorite ghosts. That would be Roland S. Howard, who, by the way, without him there would have been no birthday party, which means there would have been no Nick Cave. Now, let's not go there right now. Let's just go to Still Burning, a song written by Roland S. Howard and performed by Retrovirus in tribute to Roland S. Howard. a version of Still Burning, written by Roland S. Howard. Birthday Party of These Immortal Souls. One of my favorite albums that he did is called Teenage Snuff Film. I recorded with Roland in the early 80s. First of all, I was living in Los Angeles and I heard the Birthday Party, Prayers on Fire, or Junkyard, I'm not sure which. And I was in New York a few months later and the Birthday Party were playing. Of course, nobody was there. But I immediately ran up to Roland Howard and just because I love the Birthday Party so much. And I was quite amazed that a band from Australia knew my work with Teenage Jesus and Queen of Siam. And immediately Roland and I bonded. And he proposed at that time that we do some Velvet Morning. And so I decided to follow the Birthday Party to London. Of course, as soon as I got there, they were on tour and whatever. Roland and I began doing improvisational 10-minute pieces opening for the Birthday Party, which Nick Cave was none too happy with, but oh well, fuck him, and then again, who would? But Roland and I eventually decided to record an album called Honeymoon in Red, which somehow got lost for 7 years. We did get the tapes back, and eventually Honeymoon in Red came out, but time goes on. I moved to New Orleans eventually, and I thought, what better project to instigate than bringing Roland S. Howard down to New Orleans to do an album, and henceforth we did Shotgun Wedding. The beauty of Roland S. Howard was that every note mattered. He was funny, sweet, romantic, lovely, one of the most talented guitar players and composers. And this is a song called Cisco Sunset, one of my favorite songs. And Roland S. Howard, I miss you dearly, and Merry Christmas wherever you fucking are.
Thunder burns at midnight. I'm drinking fire water with the devil's daughter. Hey, everybody's looking for a belly to cry on these days.
You're listening to the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch. Tonight, today, this afternoon, in your bedroom, in your headphones, in your car, wherever you are, it's just me and you, because face it, people have, family responsibilities at Christmas. Well, you're my family, and my responsibility is to be with you now. We just heard two of my favorite guitar players. That would have been Weasel Walter and Roland S. Howard. And now I think we're going to go into a third of my favorite guitar players, which is Dick Stenny, originally in the Weirdos. Was in my band 1313. 1313 was an album I recorded while I was living in LA in the early 80s, which was basically just about the random possibility of attacks by a serial killer, a drive-by shooting, the beast in the bedroom that may appear out of nowhere. And this song is called Lock Your Doors.
I would not run tonight, no.
That was Lock Your Doors from 1313. Another one of my chronically underrated albums. Done in Los Angeles with the genius that is Dick Stenny and Cliff Martinez, who went on to play with Captain Beefheart, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Well, don't hold that against him. And do quite a few soundtracks like Blow and I believe Traffic. Now that we're on the subject, as we have been, mentioning Weasel Walter, Roland S. Howard, Dick Stenny, let's go to the king of all guitars. Somebody I met in New York. Well, it was at the first, I believe it was at the first Richard Hell and the Voidoids gig, where I, as a 16 or 17-year-old, ran up to Robert Quine, my personal guitar hero, and I must have been his first fan, and just said, "You are God." I was fortunate enough that Bob Quine, balding as he was, with a screwdriver in his pocket as he always was, kind of, for some reason, him and Lester Bangs at that point, they got me. I don't understand how they did, because most everybody else was terrified of, the 17-year-old teen terrorist. But Robert Quine kind of took me under his wing and went on to produce some Teenage Jesus singles and then eventually play on Queen of Siam. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how Queen of Siam came about. So we had Teenage Jesus, Beirut Slump, Eight-Eyed Spy. Eight-Eyed Spy and Queen of Siam kind of happened at the same time. What happened was I was heavily into sectionals and whiskey, watching Top Cat and Felix the Cat. Living with a fatigued construction worker was on a bit of a bender. It came into my mind that I wanted to do an album that was based on cartoon music, and for some reason Michael Zilkowsky Records, who had at that point already released some Teenage Jesus, The Contortions, Kid Creole, whatever. I don't understand how I convinced him that this was a good idea to do an album that was based basically on nursery rhymes and big band cartoon music, but he decided to produce it. Billy Verplank, that's Billy Verplank, who did some of the Flintstone music. Somehow he coerced, probably financially, him into writing some songs that were based on themes or melodies that I simply mouthed to him. And he came up with the goods with a, I don't know, however many piece orchestra, to which then Bob Quine and I went in on. Well, Billy Verplank hated what we did, but I have to say, Queen of Siam, some people consider it a seminal, I consider it a seminal album, basically half nursery rhymes, half big band, was made stellar by Robert Quine's contribution. For your delectation, let's hear a little bit of Knives in My Drain.
My windows are on a street and there's knives in my brain. I've broken the cardboard, forced fists in my brain. I blacken the walls as I suffer my youth. I've got the cancer of birth and I ask what's the use. There's knives in my drain and there's shafts in my brain. Curling the hairs and every man's mad. Broken fingers of passion and every girl sad. I'm split, bent, unbled, and I'm ripped to the sore. Every man's madness, and I'm hurling the core. There's knives in my drain, empty splints in my brain. I've carved knives in my hair. It's every man's street. I've broken the passion and every girl bleeds. I'm blackened and bleeding. I'm ripped to my youth. Every man's madness, and I ask, what's the use?
listening to the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch. Yes, I am your only guest or host tonight. I'm here to replace the family you can't stand now. Who I wish had been my father, well, he was my literary father, Henry Miller. Tropic of Capricorn. I know most of you are too lazy to read anymore. That's why you listen to podcasts. I'm going to do a little reading from my favorite book. This is page 231 in Tropic of Capricorn. In the tomb, which is my memory, I see her buried now. The one I love better than all else, better than the world, better than God, better than my own flesh and blood. I see her festering there in that bloody wound of love, so close to me that I could not distinguish her from the wound itself. I see her struggling to free herself, to make herself clean of love's pain, and with each struggle sinking back again into the wound, mired, suffocated, writhing in blood. I see the terrible look in her eyes, the mute piteous agony, the look of the beast that is trapped. I see her opening her legs for deliverance, in each orgasm a groan of anguish. I hear the walls falling, the walls caving in on us, and the house going up in flames. I hear them calling us from the street, the summons to work, the summons to arms, but we are nailed to the floor, and the rats are biting into us. The grave and womb of love entombed us, the night filling our bowels and the stars shimmering over the black bottomless lake. I lose the memory of words, of her name, even which I pronounce like a monomaniac. I forget what she looked like, what she felt like, what she smelt like, what she fucked like, piercing deeper and deeper into the night of the fathomless cavern. I followed her to the deepest hole of her being, to the charnel house of her soul, to the breath which had not yet expired from her lips. I sought relentlessly for her whose name was not written anywhere. I penetrated to the very altar and found nothing. I wrapped myself around this hollow shell of nothingness like a serpent with fiery coils. I lay still for 6 centuries without breathing as world events sieved through to the bottom, forming a slimy bed of mucus. I saw the constellations wheeling about the huge hole in the ceiling of the universe. I saw the outer planets and the black star which was to deliver me. I saw the dragon shaking itself free of dharma and karma. Saw the new race of man stewing in the yoke of futility. I saw through to the last sign and symbol, but I could not read her face. I could see only the eyes shining through, huge, fleshy, like luminous breasts, as though I were swimming behind them in the electric effluvium of her incandescent vision. How had she come to expand thus beyond all grip of consciousness? By what monstrous law had she spread herself thus over the face of the world, revealing everything and yet concealing herself? She was hidden in the face of the sun like the moon in eclipse. She was a mirror which had lost its quicksilver, the mirror which yields both the image and the horror. Looking into the back of her eyes, into the pulpy, translucent flesh, I saw the brain structure of all formations, all relations, all evanescence. I saw the brain within the brain, the endless machine endlessly turning. The word hope revolving on a spit, rotating, roasting, dripping with fat, revolving ceaselessly in the cavity of the third eye. I heard her dreams mumbled in lost tongues, the stifled screams reverberating in minute crevices, the gasps, the groans, the pleasurable sighs, the swish of lashing whips. I heard her call my own name, which I had not yet uttered. I heard her curse and shriek with rage. I heard everything magnified 1,000 times like a homunculus imprisoned in the belly of an organ. I caught the muffled breathing of the world as if it fixed in the very crossroads of sound. Thus we walked and slept and ate together, the Siamese twins who love had joined and whom death alone could separate. We walked upside down, hand in hand, at the neck of the bottle. She dressed in black almost exclusively, except for patches of purple now and then. She wore no underclothes, just a simple sheath of black velvet saturated with a diabolical perfume. We went to bed at dawn and got up just as it was darkling. We lived in black holes with drawn curtains. We ate from black plates. We read from black books. We looked out at the black hole of our life into the black hole of the world. The sun was permanently blacked out as though to aid us in our continuous interscene strife. For sun we had Mars. For moon, Saturn. We lived permanently in the zenith of the underworld. Henry Miller, Tropic of Capricorn. My true literary father. I do not know how after reading that at 12 or 13 I ever had the nerve to pick up a fucking pen, but it is because of him I did. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia at lunch, your Christmas special.
He's twisting inside himself. He's twisting inside. He takes the night walk with the pain god in his mouth. Unseen, he's not. Unseen, he's not. Transient to the arena of space, he comes to inflict. He comes. Sons of mothers who never knew any better. It's always bitterness. It's always bitterness. Bitterness replaces the pain which poses as pleasure. Treasures left buried under mud replace the dull thud which cackles in the sleep chamber. Lost in twilight's last gleaming, I find myself with swords and arrows. We swim deep in the spoiled flesh. All night sickness rushes in. All night sickness rushes in. Still around inside me. Feet kick the inner god from below.
That was Twisted from Lydia Lunch and Clint Ruin, at the time J.G. Thirlwell, an early and unavailable single. You're listening to Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch. Yes, I am your guest, I am your host. I am your hostess for tonight, this Christmas special. What we're going to come up with now is Hot Tip. Something I recorded for my album Smoke in the Shadows with the Nubian Lights. Here we go, and I hope you're comfortable wherever you are, away from your family, or as far away as possible, at least in your bedroom, in your car, with your headphones on, however, wherever. It's just you, me, and Hot Tip.
It must be 92 degrees in the shade. You want a hot tip? with me tonight.
That was Hot Tip from my album Smoke in the Shadows. You're listening to the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch. This is your Christmas special. Just me, you, in your bedroom, in your headphones, in your car, wherever you are. Here we are. I want to end this podcast. I'm sorry I've got to let you go, but you probably got to go eat some ham. Comfort your mother from crying, or stop your daddy from drinking, whatever. Your personal life is your personal life. I want to end this podcast with a song from Big Sexy Noise. Your love don't pay my fucking rent. We'll get back to that in a minute. No, it doesn't. Your love don't pay my fucking rent.
Can't do a line, I'm not sharing my smokes. I won't call you a cab, you can't crash on my floor. I won't lend you $10, get the fuck off my phone. Now you did all my drugs, you ate all my food, you broke my TV, tripping over your boots. Put that goddamn thing in your pants if you're trying to impress, because your love don't pay my rent. You can borrow my car, you can crash on my floor. You can't stay here tonight, get your ass out the door. You can't borrow $10, yeah, I know that you're broke. Now you did all my drugs, you ate all my food, you broke my TV, tripping over your boots. But your love don't pay my rent. No, you can't do a line, I'm not sharing my smokes. I won't lend you $10, get the fuck off my phone. I won't call you a cab, you can't crash on my floor. Now you did all my drugs, you ate all my food, you broke my TV, tripping over your boots. But your love don't pay my fucking rent. Relationships are all about the give and take. The only problem is I'm the one doing all the fucking giving, and you're always taking and taking and seeing what more you can fucking take. Well, why don't you just take it like a fucking man and get your ass out the fucking door? Because your love don't pay my fucking rent.
That was big sexy noise. Your love don't pay my fucking rent. You know what? Your love does not pay my rent. But however, I'm not counting on you because Big Mama Lunch always pays her own goddamn rent. But just in case you want to make a small contribution, you could always go to my Bandcamp page, the Lydia Lunch Bandcamp. You could order my book, So Real It Hurts. I'm sure that's on Amazon. And of course, there's the Audible version. That would be audible.com version of So Real It Hurts. I just want to thank everybody that was participating and has participated in the season 1 of the Lydian Spin. We will be back with Tim Dahl shortly. He's been on tour with the Flying Lutenbachers. We can't wait to return to you, and here we are. Merry fucking Christmas and Happy New Year. Put the X back in Christmas. Yes, the Lydian Spin. Thank you.